Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the Hungaroring for the fourth weekend of the International GTOpen season. We're hitting the halfway point of the campaign at the checkered flag of this afternoon's race as the cars taking to the circuit for this, the 30-minute qualifying session, which is going to form the grid. Well, you join myself, Ben Evans, on an overcast and somewhat damp day here at the Hungaroring. As you can see, on board with Kang Ling in the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini Huracan. It rained very, very hard overnight. It's been showery on and off all morning, and it means that this qualifying session is going to be something of a voyage into the unknown. The teams and the drivers trying to decide which tyres to go for. Is it wets or slicks? And just how hard they can push. Absolutely gigantic entry this weekend, with 27 cars taking to the track. We've got two Olymp Racing Audis. Oh, and a spin there for Kang Ling. He just gets avoided by the Giulio Borlenghi's Vincenzo Sospiri Racing teammate, and therein lies the dangers. It is really slippery and treacherous out there. I was just trying to sneak past there was Damiano Fioravanti in the Ombre Racing Lamborghini Huracan. And this Hungaroring circuit, always one that produces some really entertaining racing for the International GTOpen, with the multi-mark nature of the field serving to generally bunch the pack up quite a bit. This is one of the other new entries we've got this weekend alongside the brace of Olymp Racing Audis, and that is the Cacabueno Ricardo Baptista DriveX Mercedes. It's second entry for the DriveX team, and this very, very highly rated all-Brazilian pairing is Ricardo Baptista, twice the Brazilian Porsche GT3 champion, who is at the wheel, but then Cacabueno, who will take over the second half of today's race, is something of a legend racing in Brazil, five-time Brazilian stock car champion. And the team quietly confident this morning that they might get a very good result in certainly the Pro-Am class today. This is a track which in previous years has suited the Mercedes as well. But the rain, it certainly would appear, has returned once more. And we had about 45 minutes of dry running. That is no longer the case. There's the outer view. DriveX team, as ever, doing an absolutely brilliant job of preparing the car. There is the sister car, Alain Cadet and Marcello Hahn, with one of the Olymp Racing Audis just behind. And that is the 77 car, Mateusz Lisowski at the wheel for this session as he tries to pick his way past if he can. It's Marcello Hahn at the wheel of the Mercedes, also darting around the Dico Lazarus Racing Lamborghini Huracan, Toby Sowry. But Sowry, in that number 25 Lamborghini, might be fancying his chances at, not number 25 Lamborghini, my mistake, number 28, might fancy his chances, having, of course, scored pole position in the opening weekend of the season, Estoril, in not dissimilar conditions. So the Olymp Racing Audi powers uphill, and more moments, and it's a nut. Well, that's the replay, isn't it, of the spin for Kang Ling. The car just breaking away from him. This is how it felt for the Chinese driver. He's in a bit of a train, rides the curb, it just unsettles the car, and being so slippery, that's not what you want to see your teammate Giulio Borlenghi bearing down on you. But fortunately able to do the job, get the car stopped as Hahn, DriveX Mercedes, through the first corner, as the pace setter in the session from the first line lap is Marco Ciocci. And this weekend, Ciocci's got a new partner in the Luzic Racing Ferrari. It's Daniel Serra, the reigning Brazilian stock car champion, the son of the former F1 racer Chico Serra. Tom Onslow Cole then is currently second, and heading up the Pro-Am runners. We just caught a glimpse there as well of Andrea Bertolini in the RS Racing Ferrari, the very, very experienced and rapid Italian, stepping in to that car in place of Andrea Montermini. No changes, though, in the number 3 Teo Marti Motorsport BMW, Juan Cruz Alvarez and Lorenzo Pera de Viega. And it's Juan Cruz Alvarez at the wheel for this session, pursuing Stanislaw Jelinski in the second of the Olymp Racing Audis. And he picks his way around him. Fabrizio Cristani's just gone up to third, and Daniel Karlowitz, another new name to the championship this weekend, another very, very formidable driver who partners Christian Hook in the Rinaldi Racing, one of the 2 Rinaldi Racing entries, because the team has shuffled their lineup just a little bit. They're now both cars are in the Pro-Am class, and both of them have got really potent driver pairings. So Daniel Karlowitz partnering Christian Hook, and then Renat Salakov and David Perel are paired up for this weekend. And in the 333 car, and it's Renat Salakov, who was the star of the AM class at Spa-Francorchamps, who is taking the wheel. So that's more or less the housekeeping taken care of, and that was a large leap over the curbs for Jiatong Miang at the chicane, and it almost identical incident really to Kang Ling as the car landed. It just unsettled, broke traction, and around he went. Fortunately, he has recovered as we have a look at the championship leader, Michael Mack, in the Luzik Racing Ferrari. Mack, 3 victories to his credit so far this year, and as a result, he carries a 12-point lead in the championship into this weekend over Andres Saravia and Fran Rueda, twice winners in their Teo Marti Motorsport BMW. We've got another spinner over at turn 7. That's the chicane. They have recovered, fortunately. And here is a look at it. And it was the aforementioned Andres Saravia, Guatemalan driver, just being caught out. Teo Marti Motorsport team, though, no harm done, no damage to the car, so they will just scoot it back round and get back on with their session. It's going to be very, very busy out on track, and there is Toby Sowry, who's just emerged from the pits. And Sowry, as we said earlier on, setting that wet pole position in Estoril at the start of the year. The Hungaroring circuit not massively different to Estoril in terms of the fact that much of the circuit is mid-speed, long radius technical corners. Sowry giving the turn 7 curbs plenty of respect. Marco Ciocci peels into the pits. Ciocci remaining the quickest driver in the session, but this is still relatively early stages as the rain starting to come down. At least it really takes the decision away from the teams about whether it's wets or slicks, because it is emphatically very, very wet now. So Sowry on an outlap at this stage. Michael Mack has gone 4th on the lap that we were just watching him do. So it's Ciocci from Onslow Cole, Cristani, Mack, Daniel Karlowitz in 5th. Riccardo Agostini leads the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini Huracan charge in 6th. Mateusz Lazowski then for Olymp Racing in the Audi in 7th. Andrea Bertolini in 8th, ahead of Jerome Mull. And Alex West going very well in the Luzik Racing Ferrari to currently complete the top 10. Here is Fabrizio Cristani, second the Daika Lazarus Lamborghini Huracans, and in the background Damiano Fioravanti would have felt that tail of the car kicking away from him. So Cristani, the 2016 champion, of course, in the International GTOpen, and currently as well the Pro-Am championship leader. He and Miguel Ramos have been metronomically consistent thus far this season, and Cristani up into 3rd place. We go back into the Drivex Mercedes with Ricardo Baptista. Baptista currently 24th, but he's just done his best lap of the session. Oh, but he's going to run out very wide there through turn 4. Fortunately, tarmac runoff, so he's able to regain the track without too much drama. Just gives you a sense, though, just how slippery it is out on track. Oh, and that is a more comprehensive spin, unfortunately, for Marcio Basso in the third of the Teo Marti Motorsport BMWs. He and Thiago Marquez, currently fourth in the AM Championship. And unless he gets that car fired up, that is potentially going to be a red flag. And the signal there from the marshal saying he needs a tow. So we're just over 1/3 the way through the session, and indeed the red flag does come out to bring a pause to proceedings just as Basso is actually able to get back on his way. Well, at least it means it's not going to be a lengthy red flag, but it does mean that they're all going to peel into the pits and there's going to be a little bit of a pause. So 1/3 of the way through the session, it's Marco Ciocci in pole position. Seeing that time on his first fine lap of the session, he's almost 2/10 clear of Tom Onslow-Cole, who's second in the SPS Automotive Mercedes. Onslow-Cole leading the Pro-Am class from Fabrizio Cristani, who is third overall. Fourth is Mikel Mack, fifth Daniel Carvit, sixth Riccardo Agostini, seventh Mateusz Lazowski, eighth Alberto Di Folco in the target Lamborghini Huracan. Andrea Bertolini is ninth. In 10th place, it is Jerome Mull, and then Martin Conrad leads the AM class in the HTP Motorsport MS Racing Mercedes, and the Austrian driver 11th place overall. So this should be fairly rapid, because what's going to basically happen is it'll all peel into the pit lane. The incident for Marcio Basso has cleared itself. Here is in car once more with Riccardo Baptista. A whole world of understeer. Now, was it in the background that we had the spin? Yes, it was. So as Baptista recovered, there's Basso, crunch into the tyre wall. Fortunately, he was able to drive away from the scene of the incident, so if there is any damage, hopefully it is fairly minor. The last couple of cars just winding their way back to the pits makes for a very, very busy pit lane here at the Hungaroring. And challenging conditions for the drivers, because not only is it pretty damp, it's also very warm today as well. And perhaps this is karma sort of swinging itself back round. All weekend at Spa-Francorchamps, inclement weather and thunderstorms were forecast, and they never quite arrived. It wasn't necessarily going to be as wet as it has been today, according to the forecasts. It's into the pit lane for Marcio Basso. Basso, at the point of that incident, was in 25th position as the session goes green once more. So the session back underway. The clock should start ticking downward. So everybody gets the power down, slithers out of the pits. As Miro Konopka it is who leads the charge in the ARC Bratislava car. Now Konopka, another driver to keep up with the housekeeping. He's got a new co-pilot this weekend, and that is his fellow Slovakian, Zdeno Michalsko. Konopka just looking to warm the tyres. He's got one of the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghinis just behind him on the track as they wind down turn 2 through turn 3. Which always used to be very treacherous here in the damp at the Hungaroring. They've just extended the barrier there in recent years. It means it doesn't punish you quite as much as it once did. With this Hungaroring circuit, the layout largely unchanged since its construction in the mid-1980s, of course, when the Formula One Grand Prix competed here, bringing F1 racing behind the Iron Curtain as it was then. It's Mateusz Lazowski out of the pits. And getting up to speed, he is in pursuit of one of the trio of Luzik Racing Ferraris. And this a track that in recent years it's been the Ferraris and the Mercedes that seem to have really enjoyed it here at the Hungaroring. Whether or not that proves to be the case again this weekend, we'll see. It is Mikel Mack who is about to be overhauled by the Audi. given Max leading the championship at the stage of the season where he wants to keep racking up the victories, of course, but at the same time, second and third places, if he's not giving away too many points to his rivals, will be equally handy. Now look at how much water has come down at turn 7, and track conditions very treacherous. If you think when the session started 13 minutes ago, there were the makings of a dry line through this section of the track. It's now at parts almost like a powerboat circuit, a little bit of a lake forming on the exit of the turn as well. Just under 17 minutes on the clock. Now what this also means is the window for improved times compared to those that we saw being set essentially on most drivers' first lap of the session, it's potentially closing a little bit, one would wonder, because the track conditions are appreciably worse than they were a few minutes ago. Anyway, Michael Mack out on track, having a little bit of a power slide in the Luzik Racing Ferrari. Thought that was fun, or at least necessary, so has another one. So accelerating along the start and finish straight on the brakes into turn 1. Mack just picking his way through. So Mikko Mack currently 4th in the session. Daniel Karlowitz has been able to wrangle the fastest first sector out of his first flying lap of the resumed session. Let's see if Mikkel Mack can do much the same. He's coming towards the end of the first sector in a moment. So he accelerates towards turn 4, further round the lap. And Chris Alvarez kicking up wall of spray. And yes, Mikkel Mack has also found something. Here is Daniel Karlowitz then, the wheel of the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari. Now what we've seen all year is the Rinaldi Racing Ferraris have been absolutely bang on the pace. David Perel's superb pole lap at Spa-Francorchamps last time out, giving a very, very good demonstration of that. But through the middle sector, Karlowitz a little bit away from his best. Not unsurprising, perhaps, given that that's really the section of the track where the standing water is beginning to form the most. And through the final turn, and then acceleration over the timing beam. Now let's see if this is an improvement. It's not. It's a 2 minutes 0.7 for Karlowitz versus a best of a 1 minute 59.1. Now Mikkel Mack, however, further behind on the lap. He is on for an improvement. He's done the best first and middle sector. Also seen a best lap of the session for Kangling. He's leapt up to 16th place. Waiting for Mack to come past our commentary box. See whether or not he can post an improvement. Here he comes. He's gone past us now, and he doesn't. A 1 minute 59.4 versus a best of a 1 minute 58.9. Losing all that time through the final sector on the lap. Running uphill as well, Jiatong Liang in Pirelli Racing Ferrari. He's got Tom Onslow Cole, who's currently 2nd in the session on the road just behind him. 13.5 minutes to go. Well, the lazy joke would be to say this is perfect weather for the British driver, but it's actually not rained in the UK for about a month, more or less. And so Onslow Cole, like the whole field, acquainting himself to the very, very wet conditions. Onslow Cole, he'll want to try and clear Jiatong Liang fairly quickly because it's still through this first sector on the lap where the pace is to be found, but Liang also hoping to improve on his 15th place. The grid, Damiano Fioravanti, he's just posted the best lap in the Ombra Lamborghini Huracan. He goes 14th. He was the only improvement last time around. So Onslow Cole continues to pursue the Chinese driver and then leaps around him at the far side of the circuit. He needs to turn on his headlights though, as across the line here is Marco Ciocci, the driver who is currently in pole position for Luzik Racing. Ciocci, who has or is forming the backbone of this additional third car to the Luzik squad. They had 2 cars for the first 2 events of the season. They expanded to be a trio at Spa-Francorchamps, retained the entry, although this weekend Matt Griffin replaced by Daniel Serra rather, as Marco Ciocci hits the curb. And this, through the first sector, an improvement for the Italian. Always a very, very spectacular competitor in the International GT Open, Marco Ciocci. Lamborghini Huracans of Imperiale Racing Squad, flying in formation, Riccardo Agostini, just ahead of Jerome Mull on the road, and Agostini currently the foremost of the trio of Lamborghini for the Imperiale Racing team, running up in 6th position. Agostini peels into the pit lane. As I say, we're seeing very, very few improvements out and about on the track. Meanwhile, Andrea Bertolini, the RS Racing Ferrari, showing that even the very best of them can get a little bit caught out. And again, taking full advantage of the tarmac runoff, making sure he doesn't bring the Ferrari into contact with anything solid. Bertolini currently in 9th place. As an improvement again for Kang Ling, who goes 13th with a 2:0.036 in the Vincenzo Spiri Racing Ferrari. Meanwhile, Marco Ciocci having a sideways moment through the final turn, as that is going to cost him both this lap and the next one. And a very, very strange session as we hit the 2/3 point, in that for the overwhelming majority of the field, they set their fastest laps of the session essentially on their first flying lap of the session. With the weather changing thereafter, it's going to give us a really jumbled grid as well for the race this afternoon. So across the line with just under 10 minutes to go for Andrea Bertolini. Can he wrangle something out of the RS Racing Ferrari? Daniele Diamato, his co-driver, is effectively 5th in the championship standings. 1 victory this season for the team coming at Paul Ricard. Again, Bertolini through this first sector without traffic. That's where he will be able to find a little bit of an improvement, as Alberto Di Folco, another driver who's really pushing in the Target Racing Lamborghini Huracan, the car that he shares with Stefano Constantini, right up there in the Pro-Am class, as he pursues Jiatong Liang. Mikkel Mack has just set the fastest first sector of anybody in the session. Now, does that suggest that the track is starting to come back to the drivers just a little bit, as Di Folco, he's well and truly bottled up behind Liang. He's able to clear him now, carving his way through this second sector where they really are kicking up an awful lot of spray. And they're standing water away from the racing line. Then as they come towards the 3rd sector now, the track just starts to come back towards them a little bit. So no change, particularly at the sharp end of the field, although Alberto Di Folco in 6th place did set his best lap of the session last time round. So here's Mikkel Mack, who was flying through the first sector, but well out of it through the middle sector, giving away 8/10 or thereabouts. So we'll see whether or not this lap results in being an improvement for Mack or not. So he tiptoes his way. Well, he doesn't tiptoe his way. Power pulls into the pit lane. So that lap going nowhere for him. Meanwhile, big sideways moment for Daniel Kvyat. Just shows how hard these drivers are pushing to get the most out of the machinery. Back in car with Riccardo Baptista. Baptista, 24th position. Drive X Mercedes, over the curbs he goes. He's pushing as hard as he can. He's really Slipping and sliding, just trying to hit the apex, but also find a little bit of the grip to the outside of the corner as well, where all the marbles are. Big bumpy ride over the curbs. Now for Baptista, through the first sector, this was his best lap of the session. The middle sector, not so much. Can he pull something out of the bag through the final sector? Meanwhile, Toby Sowry in the Daiko Lazarus Lamborghini Huracan, still in the pit lane, the driver who set the wet pole position at the start of the season, hasn't really done an illustrative flying lap at all this session. So he remains marooned in 27th position. Baptista crosses the line, sets actually a personal best lap of the session at 2 minutes 3.778, but it leaves him in 24th place. 6 minutes and 20 seconds to go, and we're just starting to see the blue lights appearing a little bit on the timing screen, and Andrea Bertolini is one of those drivers who had been making improvements. Double wave jellies, and that's why Jiatong Liang parked at 90 degrees in the middle of the road and pulls back across in the face of Mateusz Latowski, the Olymp Racing driver, having almost Olympian level reflexes to avoid the errant Lamborghini. Now that for Andrea Bertolini means no improvement. Here's another look at it, and just trying to get on the throttle a fraction of a second earlier than on the previous occasion, and that enough to pitch the Lamborghini into a spin. So Alberto Di Folco, meanwhile, has gone up to 5th now, 1 minute 59.069, and as the shower's now passed over the circuit, it's starting to dry out a little bit, and it's going to potentially be a little bit of a shootout for the latter stage of the session. In terms of the classes, it's still Tom Onslow-Cole, who is the quickest of the Pro-Am runners, and Martin Conrad, who leads the way in the Am class. But improvement starting to be seen through the field. Rinat Salakov up to 18th. In the second of the Rinaldi Racing Ferraris. Oliver Wilkinson up to 20th in the Optima Motorsport Audi. Fabrizio Cristani on a good lap, at least through the first sector. And there indeed is Cristani. He is in pursuit of Jiatong Liang. Now, is that going to delay him a little bit? Cristani, a good middle sector, not his best of the session, but he backs right out the lap. He's going to give himself the track space and have another run at it. He's about to be overhauled, maybe, by Daniel Karwitz, the Rinaldi driver, merging onto his tail as he climbs out of turn 12. Juan Cruz Alvarez, meanwhile, up to 17th place in the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW with 2 minutes 0.499. Ricardo Baptista, a further improvement for the driver at Mercedes competitor, at 2 minutes 2.206, enough to move him up into 22nd place. Martin Conrad in the HTP Motorsport MS Racing Mercedes on a good lap, the Am class leader, currently 11th, but he's on his best first couple of sets of the lap. Giulio Borlenghi now goes 18th. And here comes Conrad, who flashes across the line. It is Martin Conrad's best lap of the qualifying session, a 1 minute 59.760, but it does keep him in 11th place and the lead of the Am class. Cristani, another good first sector, the same for Daniel Karwitz. Marco Ciocci on an outlap, as is Tom Onslow-Cole. 3 minutes to go, and the last lap of this session could prove to be absolutely crucial. These big GT3 cars, they all run on a Control Michelin tyre. The heavy blocks of tread on that will help clear the water, as will all the aerodynamic devices on the car. Toby Sowry, sorry to report, remains in the pits as Daniel Karwitz, coming towards the end of the lap. Again, quick first sector, middle sector going away from him. The same for Fabrizio Cristani. And the two of them running in tandem. Karwitz in particular losing a lot of time through the middle sector. Fabrizio Cristani not so much. as Kang Ling goes 5th in the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini. Cristani doesn't improve, 1 minute 59.3. About 6/10 adrift of his best. Nor does Kolwitz, who's now dropped to 7th. As Alberto Di Folco goes 4th, a 1 minute 58.809, and that now pushes Mikael Mack, the championship leader, back to the 3rd row of the grid. There is under a lap time remaining in the session, so as they come through now, it's going to be to start their final lap of qualifying. And we've got a yellow flag over at turn 6, according to our timing screen. And that may well take the chance away for several of these drivers, depending on what the incident is. We'll find out very, very quickly as we follow Fabrizio Cristani exactly who is in trouble, and unfortunately it's Marcello Hahn who rejoins, having had some sort of an excursion in the Drovex Mercedes. And this is Oliver Wilkinson in the Optima Motorsport Audi. Around he goes. That's a quick old spin for Wilkinson. And the same for Hahn. And that will have felt profoundly unenjoyable for the Brazilian, A, to avoid slithering back onto the face of incoming traffic, and B, slither across the track and into the wall, but he brings the car to a halt. What it means is, again, we've not got many blue sectors lighting up on the timing screen. 35 seconds of the session to go. Kang Ling, is he gathering his reserves for one final chance? Well, Cristani emerges on a flying lap, and Ling is gathering his reserves, but he's just going to slither back into position as Cristani accelerates through. These drivers are all going to sneak past just about for one more lap. We go in car with Kang Ling, and it's a really impressive session from the Chinese driver. Despite that first lap spin, he's up to 6th in the session as the checkered flag comes out. Now, hopefully, we won't have, as Andrea Bertolini is going to be one of the first, the front runners to take the checkered flag. And Bertolini improves to 7th on that last lap of the session, a 1 minute 59.116. Hopefully, we won't have any yellow flags to interrupt running. So for the Luzic Racing team, it's going to be potentially a pole position, unless somebody can overhaul Marco Ciocci late on. Damiano Fioravanti, meanwhile, has leapt up into the top 10 with a 1 minute 59.2 rather. Here comes Marco Ciocci, and Ciocci, that lap he set at the very, very start of the session, is looking like it's going to prove critical. So he applies the right foot out of the final turn. No improvement for Ciocci, but then his principal rivals for pole position also looking like they may not improve either. So Marco Ciocci and Daniel Serra set for pole position, barring a fairly miraculous final lap from somebody. Moment, it looks like that miracle is not going to come. Absolutely fascinating qualifying session though, and it is going to give us a really, really interesting race later on, with a lot of very quick cars scattered through the field. Got more yellow flags out on the far side of the circuit. Hopefully it's just to slow the cars down, being the end of the session. The last couple of them are either across the line or into the pit lane, so pretty much the session at a close. And a very, very strong field should give us some fantastic racing later today. Marco Ciocci, then pole position to the Italian. He'll share the front row of the grid in his Luzic Racing Ferrari with the SPS Automotive Mercedes of Tom Onslow Cole. Onslow Cole, the Pro-Am pole sitter. Second row of the grid, looking like it's going to be all Pro-Am. Fabrizio Cristani and Alberto Di Folco. Cristani, the Daika Lazarus Lamborghini Huracan, and Alberto Di Folco in a similar Lamborghini, but for the Target Racing team. So here's a look then. Marco Ciocci, pole position, ahead of Tom Onslow Cole. Cristani and Di Folco, row 2. Championship leader Mikael Makin, the Luzik Racing Ferrari, shares row 3 with Kang Ling in the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini. Andrea Bertolini and Daniel Karlowitz, 2 newcomers to the championship for 2018 this weekend, and they are an all Ferrari 488, row 4. Riccardo Agostini and Damiano Fioravanti, the Imperiale Racing and Umbra Racing Lamborghinis, on row 5. Mateusz Lewowski then in the Olymp Racing Audi, alongside AM-class pole sitter Martin Conrad on row 6, then Jerome Mull and Alex West on row 7. Andres Saravia, second in the championship standings. He and Fran Roeder are going to have to make up a lot of ground from 15th on the grid, with Giulio Borlenghi, the second of the AM-class runners in the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini, in 16th. Renat Salikov and Jiatong Liang on row 9, with Juan Cruz Alvarez and Marcelo Hahn completing the top 20. Oliver Wilkinson in 21st, ahead of Antonio Coimbra, then Mero Konopka and Ricardo Baptista. Row 12, Marcio Basso bringing out the red flag mid-session with that spin. Hopefully no damage to him. Stanislaw Jedlinski in 26th, and Toby Sowry, unfortunately not getting a chance to the lap, so he will line up in 27th. The green flag for this afternoon's race is at 3:40 Central European time, so do make sure you join us here at the Hungaroring for what promises to be an absolutely thrilling 7th round of the International GT Open. Until then, it's goodbye.
Yeah, I tried to push immediately because track was better. Yeah. In the third sector, I found the traffic in the middle. I was a little bit slower, the traffic in the third sector. Now. I found an Audi, but I don't think I could improve.